You're live and you can call the meeting to order.
She needs to.
You're on mute. Yes, she's still on mute.
Okay, sorry.
That's all right. There you are.
Okay.
Perfect. You're still on mute. You had it. There you go.
That's what it was on before. So
Perfect.
whatever. Here we go. It is 7:03 and I'm calling the March 25th, 2020 school board meeting to order. I would like to ask Director Bettinger to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
All right. I pledge allegiance
To
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That was lots of echoes.
It was.
Well, that was different. Anyway, welcoming the audience to our meeting tonight. We all know we're in very, very new normal times. So I hope I have connected with all of you and you have paid attention to all the ability to get on and view this tonight. First of all, I want to read through a new process for audience participation. And if you'll bear with me and listen. The purpose of board meetings is for the board to conduct its business in public. During the meeting, the board will listen to, but not respond to, comments from the audience. Those wishing to comment must complete the online form as indicated on the district's website. Questions raised through submitted public comment addressing an issue may require further investigation, and answers will be posted on the district's website. If you indicated a desire to speak to an agenda item, your comment will be read at that portion of the agenda. General comments will be read during the audience communications section of the agenda. We are now on to 1.06. And Dr. Watts, is there any changes to the agenda?
President Abana, thank you. Members of the board, staff, friends, there are no changes to the agenda this evening.
Any board members have any changes to the agenda this evening?
I only have the superintendent might be including this in his report. I sent some questions regarding the COVID-19 response from constituents. So if that's covered in his report, then I'm good.
And I think you will find that. I did have a chance to talk to Dr. Watts, and I think he and I understood that hopefully a lot of that will be covered tonight, Director Bettinger.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. We're now up to 2.1, Superintendent's Report. Superintendent Dr. Calvin Watts, would you like to give your report tonight?
I will. Thank you, President Amata, members of the board, staff, and community. First of all, thank you for your patience, certainly under these extraordinary circumstances. I want to begin this evening by saying that I share many of the concerns that we've heard from hundreds of students, families, staff, and community members who've expressed to me literally over the last 2 weeks on multiple occasions. I also want Kent School District community members to know that Kent School District continues to closely monitor the updates as guidance is changing, not just daily, sometimes by the hour, from the county, from the state, and from federal levels due to local and global developments that are associated with our COVID-19 pandemic. Leading up to the closure, since our district was ordered closed by Governor Inslee, I and our team members have worked tremendously hard and incredibly smart to remain committed not only to following our policies, our procedures, and our current practices, but I can assure you that this is anything but business as usual. For example, last week, Superintendent Reichdahl identified 5 priorities for all school districts, all 295 school districts in the state of Washington to follow, while also considering the health and safety of our staff and communities as a #1 priority. We provided an update and a timeline on these 5 priorities to our staff and our families. We provided updates at special board meeting last week, and much of these details can be found on a special web page that's updated daily, if not multiple times per day on our website at www.kent.k12.wa.us/closure. The first priority, ensuring the provision of school meals, including breakfast and lunch, to students who need them. We've provided locations, phone numbers, addresses, and meal times on our website. They are currently and will remain visible. We have also sent these items via email, this information via email, text, and through our Peach Jar flyer digital platform to all staff and families multiple times each week. The second priority, developing plans to be a child care provider of last resort. And what that means as quite frankly, a directive from our governor and an expectation set as a priority from our state superintendent that essential employees are those staff members who provide a service that is quite frankly necessary for the safety and health of our community, whether it's a health provider or an individual who provides service through meal service, where their absence from their jobs would provide an undue hindrance to their ability to support our community. They need to remain not only employed, but need to remain in their work. And so to provide childcare is a service that we will continue to do so. 2 of our schools and a 3rd community partner serve as sites. And we began serving childcare Monday, March 23rd. I actually had the opportunity to visit one of our sites on 2 occasions and have seen on one occasion serving 3 students at the time that I was there. And we'll continue to serve as many as our families will provide for us too. Third priority, providing graduating seniors the content they need to meet their graduation requirements. Again, we know this as an extraordinary time in all of our schools' students' lives, particularly our seniors. And we did receive guidance recently from the Office of our Superintendent of Public Instruction over the weekend. And we are, as we speak, working with labor partners and our teaching and learning community to come to an agreement on how we will exactly meet this guidance. And we will do just that. The 4th priority, to offer learning opportunities for our students and continued professional learning for our adults who are providing instruction. Again, we received guidelines and guidance from OSPI on Monday evening, and we are also continuing to work with our labor partners and with our teaching and learning community, again, to reach an agreement on how we will best meet this guidance. And again, we will meet this guidance. The 5th priority, that we have employees who are gainfully employed, and we will continue our payroll for those employees as we develop meaningful work and professional development plans over the next week, adhering to those guidelines from the Department of Health. We're continuing to operate payroll as previously communicated, and we will also work with our labor groups again as we receive further guidance from OSPI. And I want to address a couple of these items specifically. Our core business is teaching and learning, and so let me speak to our learning resources. So first, as an educator, and I will always consider myself a teacher, that's how I began my career in this industry called public education. As a parent, always as a learner and as a lifetime supporter of public education, I want to be very clear that remote delivery of instruction, which is our charge and our challenge currently, is not how K-12 education was designed to be delivered. It was designed to be delivered with teachers, students in a learning environment, supporting each other through continuous growth, knowledge, and understanding. But we are working with our principals, with our labor leaders, and we're doing so to deliver what we believe will be an equitable plan. In the meantime, there are resources and information for all students, including our inclusive education students, that are available online. Meal service. Specifically, our nutrition services team deserves kudos each and every day with the support they're providing for meeting the basic needs of our students. They continue to provide grab and go breakfasts and lunches at 6 of our schools and 4 community sites. I had the opportunity to see, along with members of Teaching and Learning and our Chief Learning Officer, Danelle West, with our staff at Kent Elementary School to hand lunches and breakfast to families who either drove up in their cars or rode their bicycles or walked to school to make sure that they had a nutritious meal. On a normal open operations day, please note, and that means on a day when we are in school on a regular basis, addressing the needs of 27,000 students, we serve typically 10,000 meals to students in Kent School District on a daily basis on a normal operating day. In the 7 days since our meal service began after school closure, Team KSD has served a total of 22,650 meals, averaging 1,617 children who are receiving 3,235 meals per day on average. And that's more than a third, or just about a third, I should say, of our student population. And I have compared that with colleagues regionally and nationally, and that is actually, in many cases, above, but by and large on par with what many school districts are achieving with their meal service. We continue to work together with our community partners to consider how we could serve even more children. So yes, 3,235 is good. We're always seeking to improve. And we have plans that are in place to discover how best to achieve those increased numbers. I want to take a personal point of privilege also to thank President Hamada and specifically all of our board members, but President Hamada for putting a call out to our community of volunteers. We did have a conversation and I did ask for her help, and she had mentioned that there were several individuals from the community who would be ready to serve as needed. And when we received information that we had to change course very quickly and consider options that we had not needed to consider prior to, we needed to do something very different. President Hamada recognized that the data showed with pending shelter in place or our stay home, stay healthy guidance that our meal service plan might be in jeopardy. So just over 40% of our nutrition services team is also of age that is considered immunocompromised at 60 years or older and considered vulnerable in this pandemic situation. And if they were to get sick or not able to show up or come to work due to exposure to the virus, we might not be able to serve our children. And so based on those decision points, we had to adjust our plan. So we were building a list of volunteers now to be able to support this work. And we do have a growing list of, and no surprise, of our community members who are willing and able to help when the need arises. And when that need comes about in the future, we do have individuals whom we can call on. And we will need volunteers because we also continue serving meals during spring break, even though we are not obligated to. It is our goal to not stop the service of meals to our families during that time. These are contractually agreed upon days off, and that's the reason why, even in spite of, we were seeking ways to ensure that our meals will be served and our children will be fed. That means because those contractually obligated days are days off, it means we don't have the money, quite frankly, in the budget to pay the staff who work those days, and they will not be reimbursed, not even during this emergency. Again, that's the reason why our volunteers are so important. I mentioned our graduating class, the class of 2020. That priority, we know this affects each one of our students in different ways than your peers who are juniors, sophomores, or freshmen. We know you have questions about the social aspects of graduation, from prom to commencement, and we share your concerns about scholarships and the academic components and your future. We will go slow at an understandable pace and make smart decisions alongside your teachers, your principals, your counselors, and with you and your families when we have final guidance from the State Board of Education sometime in mid-April. In the meantime, the learning resources that are available to all Kent School District students are now available to you and have been. We stand with you. To the class of 2020, we want you to be successful. We want to make sure that our exit requirements from secondary, from Kent School District, are aligned with the entrance requirements of our 2-year and our 4-year institutions, and more information should be forthcoming. I've said it before, and I will say it again. Learned a great deal of lessons from those who I serve alongside. My most important lessons I learned from my parents, and they taught me at a young age that crisis does not build character, but instead it often reveals it. And I'm seeing that play out on a daily basis, from the staff and community who are volunteering to distribute meals, to those going above and beyond to provide resources for our students, and the kindness being extended as we learn and grow through this unprecedented time together. I'm incredibly proud of Team KSD and our Kent School District community for coming together to respond to this crisis and continue to respond as we go forward. Thank you for your flexibility. Thank you for your patience, for your grace as we navigate our evolving response to the COVID-19 pandemic together. That concludes my report for this evening.
Point of order, may we ask questions? Yes?
I don't have a problem if you ask questions.
So some of the things I've been hearing from the community, and I thank everyone who's stepped up to volunteer, and I thank everyone who's been out there delivering meals. It is a gargantuan task. So some of the concerns and questions I've heard is the safety of everyone who's delivering the food. Are they being given masks or gloves or anything like that to protect the protective gear?
What I will ask for our team from Nutrition Services to provide additional response. We have had gloves, and we have monitored, in my example of serving, have monitored the safe distance of 6 feet for,
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yes. And so we have used those personal protective equipment and been mindful of our safety as well as the safety of our community members.
And I've heard also questions about whether families can pick up meals for other families as a volunteer without having those other children present.
So yes, on our website, we do state through our federal guidance, 0 to 18, we are feeding all students, and that is certainly in adherence to our federal guidelines, so that eventually we would be reimbursed for those meals.
Mm-hmm.
But we have also stated that we will feed all KSD students. And whether a student is in a car or not, we are handing those meals. I can tell you that we are asking how many meals are needed, and we provide those meals to the families to support children who we are assuming are Kent School District students.
Great. Those are my questions. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have one more. In learning, community members said there's Verizon hotspots that are going to be offered potentially. They saw a sign at one of the meal locations.
Yes. Yes, we are working on that and the exact deliverance of those hotspots. I've talked with actually Dr. Harmon on several occasions, and as late as this afternoon. Dr. Harmon, if you care to share additional insights.
So yes, so the minute we started hearing more about the COVID virus and schools were shutting down across the state, we began thinking about what equity would look like and what continuity of learning would look like and what some of those gaps were. And obviously, as a pretty much one-to-one district, our problem was going to be more about access to internet than it was going to be about devices. And so we immediately started trying to assess what it would take to purchase hotspots and what that distribution would be. We were able to obtain those almost at the nth hour just in time, but right after we were told to shut down. So we didn't get to distribute those to students before we closed. So the most logical solution was to align that with our meal service locations. And we've started kind of putting flyers in those as meals are distributed to let them know what days would be at certain sites. Our emphasis is on households, not students, because multiple students in a household, multi-families in a household. We don't want to make any assumptions, and we also don't want our families to have to beg for service. So we're trying to be sensitive of that and just inform and then request, rather than putting out an all call of you have to tell us that you need it. We're just saying you're here and then we have the forms available. And we're going to actually expand that. Tashawn and I were talking this evening about adding a few staff members, as always. With the stay home, stay healthy, that complicated things a little bit. So I've been reminding our staff that regardless of where K-12 fits to a certain extent, we fall on that essential worker list. So we'll continue to use our nutrition services sites to disseminate those. We're also working in close alignment with teaching and learning and our learning plan. So with an emphasis obviously on our secondary students and seniors to ensure that they have the internet access that they need so that they can do what they need to graduate on time. And hopefully that will also benefit the other siblings in those households. So we're continuing to do that. We have, I believe, 500 hotspots available. We know that's not everything and everyone, but that's a start, considering that across the nation, school districts were scampering to get these. We also didn't want to extend costs too high without knowing exactly. So there we are.
Great. And we're sharing this information about the food and, about the hotspots in different languages for all our different, diverse groups in our district.
So meal service, because we're using the web and things, is translated. Our hotspot flyer was not, but we've aligned with communications now that'll go out in Peachstar and other things, so it'll be translatable. Great. So yes.
Great. Great.
Dr. Harmon, if I might ask, and I've mentioned this to Dr. Watts, when I was out at the different sites, and I'm hoping we're getting the word out through our website and stuff that's consistent, but at some sites, I understand that they had to have kids in the car and ID, and at other sites, they were much more generous about the few, they were a little more trusting on the few food distribution. Are we kind of going to have a consistency in that policy from here going on? I know we're all trying hard, but.
So we've, I'll say from day one, it's never not been consistent and clear communication from the nutrition services director or expectation about serving all students. The federal guidelines from day one were 0 to 18, never about students in Kent School District. So that's why I've always used the word children and not students. We say that no KSD students would be turned away because we also recognize that we have overage students that we serve. So that's our commitment. Initially, when the guidance came out, it was to follow our summer feeding plans. And in the summer feeding plan, the child has to be present. There's never anything about IDs. IDs have never been necessary. So I don't know where that got communicated. It was never in our messaging on the web or anything. No ID of any kind is needed. But in the initial communication of you need to follow your summer meal plan, the children have to be on site in order to receive the meal. As time went on, as this started to spread across the nation, as OSPI reevaluated, and as we realized that families were really trying to do right by their neighbors. And so families were saying things like, I'm the adult, you're gonna see me circle back around in about 10 minutes, but I promise you I'll have different children in the car. And it became very clear, no, you don't need to come back out. We'll give you the meals and trust that you're gonna give them to who needs them. And that's a little bit of a gray space for our staff, because technically the guidelines do say that people need to be present. We know that these are uncommon times and uncommon situations. So what I've said to staff is we can't go with a common solution in uncommon times. So we're stretching that, but we're being careful about how we say that, even though I'm saying it live stream to everyone now. But technically what we're doing is not exactly in line with federal guidelines, but it is in line with what every other school district is doing. And it's in line with what's best in the spirit and intent of what we're being asked So we did have a hiccup at one of our schools. We made it clear with those staff so that they understand that the expectation is that if families are there and they make the ask, it is not our job to count heads or those kinds of things. Our job is to serve meals to families in need. And so we're going to do that to the best of our ability. And so that's what we intend, and that's what we're doing. Our numbers are climbing, and we have an ambitious goal to try to get to what we typically serve on a regular day in Kent School District. I don't know if we make it. Hopefully, I hope that we're back in session before we have to get there, but that's our goal.
Do you anticipate keeping with this model, or have we been actually thinking about other avenues for distribution?
Oh, so we are considering, I won't say everything on the table because I don't want nutrition services staff to get super nervous, but we've talked about lots of things, and we had some wonderful volunteers. Thank you, Dr. Watts, for clarifying about the spring break, because that's we've always intended to reach out to volunteers, because our spring break service and meal delivery will be completely contingent upon our community, because those are non-paid days for nutrition services staff. But we've also had other wonderful KSD staff and community members reach out. Our Teamsters are willing to drive buses, and so we want to work into a bus model. And so our plan is going to, I will say, expand after spring break, and not necessarily change, because we're going to be able to add additional sites. We've had some faith-based organizations reach out as well who want to adopt apartment complexes and have volunteered to use their parking lots. And so we've kept a list of volunteers. The one thing that we I've not done is reached out to some of our teachers who have volunteered. We have our wonderful instructional staff have reached out, but I know that their requirements and expectations under the 5 priorities from Superintendent Reichdahl have shifted. So I don't want them to, while I appreciate their spirit to serve, I know their service to KSD and the community will show up in the form of instruction and not necessarily a meal service delivery, but we still have other wonderful volunteers who are willing to do this, and they're off other time. If they want to do meal service, they're welcome to do so, but I'm hesitant to pull them first because I know what their service responsibility will be, and it'll be in other ways. So yes, we're going to expand. We want to add other sites. We're looking at using buses. We've talked about multi-day, multi-meal, so that everyone is out less in the community. So we're trying to ramp up to that too, so that people are just spending less days out, because if it really is safe for us to be home, how can we make that happen and still meet the needs and expectations?
Thank you for that clarification. I don't mean to dwell on this, but I know our community members from all the calls and all the interests and all the social media may need to hear this over and over again, and they may be hearing this for the first time. So I think your assurance really matters to them. I have one other question that may be a little odd to fulfill, but I'm having a hard time understanding, and I talked to my daughter, the teacher, and she's going to be expected on Monday to start teaching. And she's not exactly sure what she's going to do. And I'm wondering, from a practical point of view, how are we going to actually start up Monday teaching? I mean, have our teachers, are they all on board of what they're going to do? Or is it going to be kind of a get together and learn as you grow? Can you help me with that at all?
So I am not the correct executive cabinet member to help you with that. So I'm going to mute myself and open up the space and microphone to another one who can.
And Danelle, if you would share and enlighten us on what is at least the early on plans that we've discussed already. Danelle?
Hi, good evening, Board President Hamada, Dr. Watts. It's sort of interesting communicating in this virtual space. We've been doing it quite a bit these last couple of weeks. So where we are right now, and we've really recently just had conversations, because the shift in direction from OSPI is relatively new as of Monday, and the communication did go out to most educators across the state. So that created maybe some undue angst, and teachers preparing and staff preparing to take action as the district was rolling out what those next steps would be. Our plan from the very start was to provide resources for families for up to 3 weeks, and we've done that by making those resources available on our district website at this time. So we do have resources that are available for families, for all families using that platform. We've also reached out to each of our school principals and staff to kind of do an audit on what instructional resources they have provided and for the length of time those resources are available and accessible to students. So we also have that happening in addition to the information that the team has put together and made publicly available on the webpage. We are in the process of engaging in conversations with our labor partners to solidify what our long-range plan will be moving forward. So we feel very comfortable with the resources that we have and the expectations as of starting or launching a phased plan for continued learning for students that is supposed to occur beginning on Monday, March 30th.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I want to thank both of you, Dr. Harmon and Ms. West. I want to thank you very much for updating that. I think when they hear this on our meeting, I think even if maybe they've seen this or something, it just reiterates that you're continually working on this. And would you see a common day to start the school at a certain time and have kids all online? Or how help me as a grandmother to see how my grandchild was going to school, how that would look for a parent or a grandparent? How would their day be? Is it just the resources are available, or will they actually have class times, or what?
So what we've posted on our website right now is a sample schedule that families could follow that kind of maps out how they could chunk that day for students and leverage the resources in each of the content areas that would be, as best we can, a normal part of the student's day. As we begin to shift to what we are phrasing as remote learning and not necessarily online learning, because we do have some accessibility challenges, and it may not necessarily be having access to a device or Wi-Fi, but there's also just understanding how to learn and navigate in that space if you haven't been constantly or continually engaged in that practice. And those are shifts that we've been making with our staff, and it's going to require us doing business a little bit differently in how we prepare our staff to be able to lead in that type of environment. So the day could look a variety of ways. It could be where students have traditional sort of what I'm going to refer to as old school learning packets that they might take home, their print resources that are more self-paced, where students are able to kind of navigate and work through that on their own. And that's applicable to some of our younger students as well as some of our older students. And we could layer onto that the opportunity to communicate or reach out to your teacher or other instructional support staff that you typically might engage with, whether it's communicating through email or using some of the technological tools that we currently have available. But right now, I think it would be premature for me to say specifically the full details of what that would look like until we finalize some of the plans around what those instructional expectations would be with our labor partners.
Thank you, Danone.
Thank you.
Yes.
Director Daniels or Director Vendegoslin, do you have any questions?
Yes, now I have a comment. I'd like to just mention that there are school districts working on the same issues, of course, and equity has come up quite a bit. And so for those students who do not have internet access, I'm hoping that we can confer with some of the other districts in terms of some of the creative ways they've figured out how to deliver learning, whether it's putting packets along with meals. You know, that was one of the ideas that came through this evening with the WASDA directors, or how we, well, there were a couple of other ideas that they brought up, but I'm just hoping that we will actually look at what other districts are also doing, just to make sure that equity barriers are not affecting the educational provision of educational services.
Thank
That's
you,
all.
President Bengadaslam. I just wanted to let you know that is an example. Actually, while it may be another school district, it is also an exemplar in Kent School District. As a matter of fact, Kent Elementary School is one of our school sites where packets have been delivered along with meal sites, with meal service. And there are many different ways. In fact, that gets us to, I think, the point that is the dilemma, right? And by that, I mean, we have a charge. We have a charge from our governor and our state superintendent to create effective plans that will support the 5 priorities. The reality is each one of our 295 school districts, each has a different plan, which means that equitable access and equality of outcomes are going to be difficult. So where we are right now is in an iterative state, and we are doing our best on a daily basis to reach these desired outcomes. But here's what I believe will happen. Out of this challenge, I do believe, and this is the most recent conversation, that we are about to embark on a sea change of how public education is delivered in this country. We're one of the few industries, as we know, who still operates in the same way that we have over the last 150 years. We have the technology to do this work, and it doesn't mean that we have to wait for a pandemic for this to happen. A year ago, we had 8 instructional days in February because of inclement weather. These are also the reality that there are school districts near us in the region and throughout the country who are able to negate the school closure concept with the remote learning process that is equitable, that is designed to teach our teachers to teach in a different way. And that's the reason why we're also offering professional learning and having to engage in memorandums of understanding to change our current practice. It will take time. This change will not happen overnight, but it is something that if we look at it in the way in which I see as an opportunity, it can be an exciting time. It can also be a scary time depending on how we review, and we need to stay safe. We need to keep our priorities in mind and ultimately ensure that the best outcomes for our students and our families are our #1 priority.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Dr. Watts, President Hamada, I forgot one piece in the kind of nutrition services update, and it's a little bit of a breaking of protocol, but I wanted to thank a community partner. So I reached out to a local business to ask for a discount so that I could do something nice for the nutrition services and safety officer staff who've been out there for a week kind of dealing with this. I have to say thank you to Mark Shue, who is the owner operator of the Chick-fil-A in Covington. He did me one better. He didn't just offer a discount. He provided 75 box lunches for the nutrition services staff and safety officers today, free of charge, because he wanted to do something nice for them. And so that was a nice surprise for them. And I'm just really thankful to that business partner, to that partner in education. They didn't do it for the news or the thank you. He just simply wanted to do something nice. He also offered, he said, if it comes to this and we're the last one standing because of stay at home, stay healthy, he said, know that you could use my parking lot too. So we have partners everywhere, but I just wanted to say that there are those out there supporting in all kinds of ways and facets. So thank you to them. But yes, people are looking out for our nutrition services and safety officer staff as well.
Thank you, Dr. Harmon, we have a lot of, I mean, I'm just amazed at the wonderful people in this community. They just step up. So, Vice President Daniels, did you have any other questions or things?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, and I apologize. I think I sent something out about not asking a bunch of questions, and guess who's asking most of the questions? So I just want to make sure that our people out there who I know are unnerved are getting as much information and hearing it maybe multiple times in multiple ways to ease their fears or their questions or whatever right now. We just need to be kind to one another right now. All right, I'm going to move on to 3.1, legislative update. Director Van de Gosselen, would you like to give us an update?
Yes, I don't have too much. Of course, the governor's proclamation to stay at home and the emergency proclamation for OPMA rules, what we're doing right now with Zoom and all of these things have sort of taken precedence. But as we know, the legislative session did end. They finished their 60-day session. Not a whole lot to report on the side of education because the focus was, of course, it began with a focus on homelessness, sorry. And what ended up happening late in the session, of course, was the sudden public health crisis and the coronavirus funding had to happen. And so they approved taking about $100 million from the state's rainy day fund to address that. So that was the big impact from the session. But of course, there were several other educational funding that did take place. Additional funding for seismic, the retrofit for schools, that was for the capital funding. And then additional funding for counselors in the elementary level and paraeducator training. Those are the more significant ones that passed for education that passed for this session. If anyone's interested in additional information on the COVID-19, there is a website that OSBI has put out in k12.wa.us/COVID-19. So there is also that. And then beyond that, in terms of our legislative proposals that I had put together for the previous meetings, Tequila was elated that we had approved their particular proposal and they're ready to go. Our proposal, there are some questions that we need to kind of answer, and I'll work with Dr. Harmon and Dr. Watts on that regarding there's a specific bill that's already with the governor that's requiring all schools with a free meal percentage of over 62.5% in grades K through 8 to participate in CEP. And so sort of unclear on what the bill when exactly it starts, if it's in 21-22, but obviously the COVID-19 issues are going to take precedence. So we'll try and figure that out once the priorities are over. So that's my legislative update.
Thank you very much, Director Van de Gosselen. We're now up to 4.0 recognition, and under 4.1, we have the Occupational Therapy Month, and Vice President Director Daniels is going to read that proclamation.
Okay, thank you. Whereas the American Occupational Therapy Association has declared the month of April to be known as National Occupational Therapy Month, and whereas the profession of occupational therapy makes valuable contributions in helping people live life to its fullest after an illness or injury, and whereas the services of occupational therapy are available to citizens of Kent through hospitals, home health agencies, schools, clinics, and nursing homes, and whereas the health and productivity of our citizens depend on the effective use of healthcare resources, including the important services of occupational therapists and occupational therapy assistants. Now therefore be it resolved that the Kent School District Board of Directors does hereby proclaim the month of April 2020 as Occupational Therapy Month and calls upon all citizens to recognize the achievements and contributions of these valued health professionals.
Thank you very much, Vice President Daniels. We're on to 4.2, Proclamation on Autism Awareness Month. And I would like to call on Director Vanda Gosselin to read that proclamation.
Yes, Autism Awareness Month, whereas autism spectrum disorder is a neurological and developmental disorder that affects communication and behavior. And whereas the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reports that 1 in 59 school-aged children has been identified with autism spectrum disorder, and whereas symptoms of autism can result in significant lifelong impairment of an individual's ability to learn, develop healthy interactive behaviors, and understand verbal and nonverbal communication. And whereas applied behavior analysis has become widely accepted among healthcare professionals and used as a treatment to improve a variety of skills, and whereas all individuals with autism should be included as valuable members of our community, provided with opportunities and supports to live, learn, work, and play as independently as possible. Now therefore be it resolved, the Kent School District Board of Directors proclaims April 2020 as Autism Awareness Month and encourage all citizens to take time to learn about autism and how individuals with autism can make a difference in the community.
Thank you very much, Director Vanda Gosselin. Now I'm going to turn to Ms. Howley to check comments to see if anybody wants to speak to an agenda item.
President Hamada, there were no comments for tonight during the audience communication or for the agenda.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Hawley. And moving on to 5.0, Board of Directors discussion and approval. And the first one is 5.1 is resolution number 1579, intent to construct New Valley Elementary replacement, Kent Mountain View Academy. I would like to ask a board member to make a motion.
I move to approve agenda item 5.01, the resolution 1579, the intent to construct New Valley Elementary replacement.
Is there a second?
I second.
It has been moved and seconded for resolution number 1579, intent to construct New Valley Elementary replacement, Kent Mountain View Academy. Is there a discussion? Anyone?
No.
No.
Okay. A motion has been made for resolution number 1579, intent to construct New Valley Elementary replacement, Kent Mountain View Academy. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand and saying aye.
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 All those opposed signify your right hand and say nay. The motion carries. Okay. We're up to 5.2, resolution number 1580, New Valley Elementary replacement, Kent Mountain View Academy, bid acceptance and award of contract. I would like to ask a board member to make a motion.
I move that we approve 5.02 resolution number 1580 New Valley Elementary replacement, Kent Mountain View Academy bid acceptance and award of contract.
I will entertain a second.
I'll second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, a motion has been made for resolution number 1580, New Valley Elementary replacement, Kent Mountain View Academy bid acceptance and award of contract. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand and saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed signify by raising your right hand and saying nay. The motion carries. Okay, we're on to 6.0 consent agenda. We don't have any, we check with Ms. Holly. Does the board have anything they wish to pull on the consent agenda this evening for discussion?
I do not.
I do not.
I do not.
Okay, so, okay. So do I need a motion for all of them then?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay. It has been moved and seconded that we approve the consent agenda as listed. To 6.1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. All those in favor by raising your right hand and saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, raise your right hand and say nay. Oops. Sorry about that. The motion carries. Okay. We're up to unbelievable communication. Is that right? Yeah. All right. Ms. Holly, do you have any communication on anything?
President Hamada, there are no comment cards. No comments have been submitted.
Okay. So we're on to board reports and discussion. And this evening, Director Bowen is excused because of an absence. She had to, at the last minute, did not have childcare for her child. I will go and move on to comments from Director Bettinger.
Thank you. Welcome to my husband's shop. That's what you see behind me. We're all at home or in our places. I have a very tiny house, so I didn't want you to have to listen to my dogs or my kids specifically singing. They'd probably be singing. I just want to thank the whole community for bearing with us as we navigate this new normal. And I thank you for reaching out to me and other board directors to ask questions. And, you know, things do change daily. I've been trying to really go onto that OSPI website and looking at the WASTA recommendations, things like that. I'm trying to share that with people. Like has been discussed tonight, you know, kind of things took a shift this weekend when there was new information from the Department of Education sent out on the 21st. And then the new information from the governor, the governor, stay at home. And then the new requirements from state OSPI. So we're all navigating together. I'm glad I had an opportunity to ask a lot of your questions tonight. Feel free to contact the whole board or contact me to ask any further questions. I particularly thank everyone who stands out in the cold and rain and delivers those meals to our kids. It's very important to me that everyone in our community is safe and fed. And today is probably a hard day for a lot of people because the stay from home order means that tomorrow you might not be going to work. And we acknowledge that. And kids, if you're listening right now, everyone out there, you know, do what you can to keep your mind alive. I'm forcing my child to keep a diary because he's a history buff, and they say that in a time like this, it's good to keep a record of it. And he's on Khan Academy and doing some things to keep his geometry forefront. And he's doing his voice lessons by remote. And I know other kids I've seen people sharing that their children are meeting up remotely if they can. And so I'm hoping that we can get some of those hotspots into people's hands so they can stay connected. And I just hope that we can all get the information that we need to share with you. And thank you very much again for bearing with us tonight as we navigate Zoom.
Thank you, Director Bettinger. Director Venda Gosselin.
Yes, I also want to thank our families and our staff members for supporting our meal delivery. I've had a chance to drive around and meet with staff and families 6 feet apart. I just want to respond to a couple of things that have come up. Last meeting, we had some concerns expressed by community about safety officers. And I want to say that I was really struck by how lovely they were to our families. In all of the schools I visited, they were at the front, leading the charge, and they were friendly, accommodating, didn't ask all sorts of questions. And there was, from what I observed, there were no questions asked about how old their children were, how many children they had. The families asked for several meals and they got them. There were no questions asked. So I did want to say thank you to our safety officers, our educators, and our volunteers who are at the front line. They're doing what Governor Cuomo said is God's work. I mean, it's just incredible that they are thinking of others. So that, and then I also wanted to bring up that there is a community effort happening with a number of organizations in Kent that are trying to get together and have a volunteer, a centralized volunteer repository. And I think we'll be hearing more about that. And our district, I think, has a representative also in that group. And so I'm hoping that we can all work together as a community to really provide the necessary supports for our families. Thank you.
Vice President, thank you, thank you, Director Van der Gosselin. Vice President Daniels.
Yes, so I also really want to express the thanks. I kind of have a little bit of a different view because I actually see what the districts have been dealing with and the amount of time and effort that all of our staff members, and particularly leadership, has had to put in. And it's a huge sacrifice. And, you know, I just really encourage everyone, you know, there's a huge ask on education. There's a huge ask on school districts. And school, we have families, we have loved ones, we have folks in our life who are, you know, vulnerable, fit into that vulnerable category. And so I really just have appreciated the sacrifices that have been made from the district leadership across the state that I've seen, and the time and everything that has been put in. It has really, you can't really describe the amount of hours, 15-hour days. I mean, there's days and days that people are putting in. And so it's really appreciated. And again, sometimes at the detriment of their own families. And so I just want to really encourage those that are, you know, looking for answers. And yes, I'm a parent too. I've got a senior and I've got you know, a sophomore. So these things are concerning to me also, but I also understand that everyone is doing the best that they can. And we're trying to hit a moving target constantly. And so I just appreciate the grace and patience that is given to us as we navigate this. Lots of directives, not a lot of support with those directives. We just kind of have to figure it out. And our district's doing an amazing job. And so I thank the staff, I thank everyone that's here watching. And I also, you know, I don't take for granted that, you know, as many of us, I am blessed that I have a home and a refrigerator that I can go to the grocery store and get food, and I can do, you know, I'm not, you know, we're not at, although, you know, I have a husband who has a business that's been shut down, we are not in danger of losing. In fact, everyone is warm and safe and comfortable. And I know that is not the case for many of our families. And that is not lost on me. So I really just encourage you to reach out however you can, donate to small businesses. I've ordered lunches from small businesses that may very well go out of business. You know, support them in any way you can. Many are delivering, many have takeout. Just really try your best to support these people, because I know several that I know right now are really afraid because they have no income coming in. So I just really want to remind everyone, there are people who that is their reality. And so I just want us to keep them in our our thoughts and prayers, and consider what we do and how we could possibly support some of that. So thank you so much. And everyone, please stay healthy and safe. I'm struggling a little bit because I've got my son home from college, and I've got these, well, he just turned 20 yesterday, so he's not a teenager anymore, but they are driving me a little bit crazy. But they don't like to sit still. So, so I feel like I might, in the next week, I might have to tie him down because it's only week 1. But anyway, thank you so much and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Vice President Daniels. I'm not going to be very lengthy tonight. I just want to echo again, thank you to our staff and our administration and everybody who's trying to do their best to get this right. I've been out at the food sites driving around, and all my younger little community members seem to be parenting me to tell me that I need to stay home. I have been following great practices by being in my car, driving by, keeping multiple feet away from people. And I saw lots of good things with people getting handed lunches. And again, the thing that I thought was, especially the first day I was out when it happened, I saw that can-do spirit. People just had this great attitude, and we're not in great times. People are really suffering. And today when I did emergency assistance most of the afternoon for clients in need through my church, which I've done for some time, I had people breaking down on the phone because they just don't know what they're going to do. They're already in straits, and now this on top of it really even brings it home more to them. But I'm very appreciative of everyone that is trying to do their best. A good friend of mine is called me last night, and they're part of the group that's making up this resource line, and they're trying to get donations from people who still are lucky enough, even though they don't go to job, to have a paycheck, to maybe get that to some sources that are open, and they're going to have a direct link. And I think, man, I mean, it's just a can-do society out there. And the calls that I got and the emails I got, and they're still coming to help with the volunteers, I was just blown away. It gives me hope in my community every day when I see people just trying to do the right thing and do it the best they can. I'm very appreciative also to not have to worry about, having enough to get by. At my age, it would be pretty tragic to have to go through that. So I want to thank all of you for, if you happen to tune in tonight, if you have any questions that came up down the road, you know how to get them to us. Keep looking at that website. I need to look at it even further. Maybe I'll learn some stuff that I didn't see through the first time. And I do want to thank all of you for coming tonight. And I think that concludes our meeting at 8:05. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Thank you. Be safe.
Have a good evening.
Have a good evening.
Thanks. Be safe.
All right.